Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture of General Medicine where I make a dreadful topic easy to learn. And for that, I shall be referring to the Mind Maps book on General Medicine by Mediastinal Shift. This book contains every topic in pictorial format, something on which you can note down the points you're going to read in today's video and many upcoming videos. If you'd like to get your hands on this book, you can browse onto e-commerce websites like Amazon, Flipkart, Dentalcard, and even the website by Mediastinal Shift. So let's get into the topic for today, which is pleural effusion. As I always mention that every topic must be studied under certain headings because that creates a storyline which keeps it easy to remember every topic. So starting for pleural effusion, the first and the foremost heading we have is introduction or the definition about what is it. So pleural effusion is the excessive accumulation of fluid in the pleural space. Now what is the pleural space? We know these are the lungs and they have a coating outside. And this space which is present above the coating or the covering of the lungs and the lung structure is known as the pleural space. So any excessive fluid accumulation inside this pleural space is known as pleural effusion. Because something which is meant to be empty, if it gets filled up with fluid, it's going to impose pressure on the lungs and also on the covering outside, thereby leading to pressure on the external structures which are present around these lungs. So that is going to lead to implications which we are going to study right now. So the pleural space lies between the lung and the chest wall, enclosed within the two layers of the pleura. Pleura is the covering of the lungs. Now it normally contains 5 to 15 ml of fluid, but in cases of pleural effusion, it can go up to several liters. Now, if a space which was supposed to contain a few ml of fluid gets filled up with liters of fluid, is definitely going to pose some effect on the patient's body and the functioning of the organs. So coming on to the types of pleural effusion, first is the contents or the type of the fluid which is being filled. It can be either pus-related fluid called as empyema, or it can be some basic fluid which has transudated from the cells or the tissues of the surrounding structures known as hydrothorax, which is basic fluid of the body. Then there can be blood present, which is hemothorax, or there can be lymphatic fluid or chyle present, which is known as chylothorax. So this is according to the type of fluid which is present. Now, on the basis of the content of the fluid which is present, content as in the quantity of the protein, glucose, etc. which is present in the fluid, it can be of two types, transudative and exudative. Transudative is something which is related to any systemic disease in the body, whereas exudative is because of any local infection or local disorder present in the pulmonary system. So transudative is mostly because there is increased pressure of the cells, which is the oncotic pressure or the plasma pressure, due to which the cells which contain the fluid comes out. This is transudation. But in exudation, what happens? The capillaries or the blood vessels or any capillary in the small cells which is present, the cells, they have increased permeability. Allowance of the increased permeability of the fluid to move out is exudative, because something is exuding out. The fluid in transudative contains less protein and is of more clear nature, whereas that in exudative contains more protein and can be of turbid nature or cloudy in nature and appearance. Examples of disease in which these two can be seen are, for example, CHF and nephrotic syndrome for transudative, whereas pneumonia and tuberculosis can present with exudative pleural effusion. So this is how the content or the type of fluid which is present can be differentiated. So when we have to diagnose a patient for pleural effusion, there are three main criteria which are used, or three main components of one main criteria, which is the Light's criteria. Light's criteria contains three components, which is the pleural fluid protein is to serum protein ratio. That is the amount of protein present in the pleural fluid versus that in the serum. Second is the amount of LDH present in the pleural fluid with respect to serum fluid. And third is the quantity of the pleural fluid LDH with respect to the serum LDH. If any of these components is present, then the effusion is termed to be exudative in nature. So if the ratio of fluid is to serum protein level is more than 0.5, or if the level of LDH in the fluid is to serum is more than 0.6, or if the pleural fluid LDH is more than the 2/3 of the upper limit of normal serum LDH, all of this is considered to be exudative pleural effusion. After we know what is happening, we need to know how the process is going on. So what is the pathophysiology for pleural effusion? There can be four main mechanisms which are involved. First is increased hydrostatic pressure. Second is a decreased plasma oncotic pressure. Third, there can be increased capillary permeability. And fourth, there can be lymphatic system being involved. If the hydrostatic pressure is increased, it means the cell structure inside the cell is going to push out water. So transudative effusion is going to happen. The vessels will stay intact, but the fluid is going to come out because of the high pressure. So the clear fluid will be present because it won't contain any proteins from the cells. Also, if the plasma oncotic pressure decreases, as in cases of cirrhosis and nephrotic syndrome, then also similar situation will be there because the pressure inside the cell to hold the water is decreasing. So the cells will not be able to hold it, and thereby the fluid is going to move out because it moves from a situation of low to high. Then thirdly, there can be increased capillary permeability, as we studied before, that if the capillary cells are getting injured or they are destroyed or they are denatured and some defect is present, the capillary permeability is going to increase. This leads to exudative effusion because the cell which contains the fluid, it is going to exudate along with it the protein contents also. So the fluid is not going to be clear and it will contain a high content of protein. Leaky vessels will be present, which leads to cloudy fluid with protein and the cell content being exudated outside. Lastly, if lymphatic drainage is present, that can also lead to an increased fluid deposition, as we studied for chylothorax, where chyle, which is the lymphatic fluid, can be present in the pleural cavity. Now, when a patient is affected by pleural effusion, there can be certain clinical features by which we can diagnose the patient or recognize a patient for effusion. So the main clinical features include dyspnea, which is difficulty in breathing because the lungs will not be able to contract and expand as they should. There are going to be reduced breath sounds because when the breath sounds are being heard, the echo or the sound is not going to be felt clearly because of the fluid. The fluid is going to submiss it. There are going to be mediastinal shift because the lung is going to get pushed and the central mediastinum is going to get shifted. There is going to be dull note on percussion because the fluid is not letting the voice to echo back and the percussion is going to be of a dull nature. Then there are going to be decreased movement of chest because obviously if the lung is being compressed by fluid from all sides, it is not going to rise and depress as it should. So there is going to be decreased movement of the chest. Now, when we know the patient has presented with these features, we need to perform certain lab tests, investigations, and imaging studies so that we can come to a confirmed diagnosis and proceed with the treatment as it is. So, investigation of choice includes chest X-ray, wherein the shift of mediastinum to the opposite side can be seen clearly. Also, there is obliteration of the costophrenic angle. Costophrenic angle is the basically angle of the lung or the apex of the lung. It is going to get blunt in nature because the fluid is going to compress it. So there is going to be obliteration. On ultrasound, which is a more accurate system for soft tissue viewing, we can see detection of the level of effusion. And if the fluid is going to be of a higher quantity, maybe more than even 5 ml, the ultrasound is going to detect it and the situation can be deciphered easily that yes, it is a case of pleural effusion. Then we can even perform CT chest because that is going to be a higher case where sections of the thoracic cavity can be viewed and the lungs and the fluid can be viewed and how the quantity of the fluid is being present and the cause can also be found out. Lastly, we can do pleural fluid analysis, which is usually done in the severe cases, and Light's criteria is used to differentiate between exudative and transudative effusion according to the content of the fluid which is there, how much protein, etc. is present. Biochemical, microbiological, and cytological examination is also done because sometimes if any infection has led to the situation, then the bacteria, microorganisms, or the viral parasite, etc. can also be found in this pleural fluid. So analysis of that can also be diagnostic in nature. Now, when we have come to a final diagnosis of pleural effusion, we need to treat the patient. And the first and the foremost treatment is to treat the underlying cause. Why is the fluid collecting? Is some cell, tissue, organ damaged? Or is there a problem in the pleural cavity itself? Next, we do therapeutic aspiration, that is removal of the fluid from the cavity because that will relieve dyspnea. Maximum 1 liter of fluid can be aspirated per sitting because sudden shift in the fluid can also hamper the activity. Suppose now lungs were getting filled with the fluid for past 15 days and about 2 liters of fluid was present. If suddenly you remove all the 2 liter of fluid, the lung is going to go into shock. So there is a limit up to which you can aspirate the fluid in one sitting. If the fluid is purulent, then empyema can be detected because pus will be present. And immediate drainage is required in cases of hemothorax because that means somewhere bleeding is present, and bleeding into the lung cavity is going to increase the severity of the situation. Then there can be pleurodesis, wherein sclerosing agents are present which used to obliterate the pleural space. That is, the fibrosis is happened. Fibrosis is carried out into the pleural space so that the fluid doesn't get space to occupy. If space will not be present, fluid will not occupy it. So sclerosing agents can be used, but this is mainly done for malignant effusion so that the malignancy cannot spread into the pleural cavity. And specifically, this can be done via some chemicals and also via surgery. And by this, the two pleura which are present, they are fused to one another so that the space is covered up and occupied by the fibrosis and the fluid cannot occupy it. So this is done when malignancy is present and no other solution is there. So we fuse these two pleura and the space for fluid is finished. Now, what are the complications of pleural effusion? There can be lung abscess. In cases of empyema, abscess can form. Then there can be fibrosis and there can be empyema related respiratory failure. So these are the complications which can happen if the patient is not treated correctly or not treated timely. Now, once you finish a topic which you've studied just now, you must move on to some questions and solve them because that is going to test your current knowledge. And if that is positive, then after 2-3 days, if you revise this very topic and go through those questions again, they're going to get embedded into your memory. So if I give you 2 questions right now for this topic, maybe a flashcard and an MCQ setup question. So the flashcard states, what is the function of pleural fluid? So it's obviously a shock absorber, prevents the organs just like other fluids and lubricates the surfaces. So if you flip over the flashcard, you're going to see the answer, which states that it lubricates pleural surfaces and reduces the friction during breathing. So it acts as a shock absorber and doesn't let any undue activity hamper the lungs and protects the lungs. Then there is an MCQ question. Which procedure is used to remove pleural fluid for diagnosis? Bronchoscopy, endoscopy, thoracocentesis, or laparoscopy? So as the term suggests, it's going to be thoracocentesis, where a fluid is removed, which is actually treatment also because the fluid will be decreased, but that fluid can also be used for diagnosis. So it is of diagnostic purpose as well. So thoracocentesis is the procedure wherein a needle is used to aspirate the fluid. And if you solve any of these questions, you're going to see such explanations in the app. The app I'm talking about is the app by Mediastinal Go, which has resources like mind map, notes, videos, flashcards, and MCQs. You can easily avail this on iOS as well as on Android. Download it. And you can even make your own mind map for any other topic, even for general medicine or other subjects. You can create your own flashcards in the app and test yourself time to time. If you would like to view more such videos for general medicine or other subjects of BDS, you must subscribe to our channel Mediastinal Go on YouTube. Do like this video while you're at it and drop a comment below this video if you have any doubt. If you'd like to reach out to us for getting the book and the app, feel free to contact us and keep watching us for more such useful videos.